I'm the son of a guy who struck it rich. The year we were wealthiest, I forced a down on his luck-rich kid named Jason Sterling to be my boyfriend. He thought I was crude and never once looked at me with a kind expression in 3 years. Then my family unexpectedly went bankrupt, and I overheard him telling his fiancée, "Who could like a man? It's disgusting." I turned and walked away, disappearing from his world completely. When we met again years later, I kept my distance. But his eyes turned red, and he asked me carefully, "You don't want me anymore?" Hearing Jason's voice at the business dinner felt surreal. It had already been 6 years since we'd broken up. The Jason of today was dressed to the nines in a sharp suit, cool and sophisticated. A far cry from the broke, fallen aristocrat he used to be. I covered my face, praying he wouldn't notice me. But the next second, I heard him speak directly to me. "Long time no see." His tone was gentle, like we were actually old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. My partner froze, turning to me. "Mr. Lee, you know Mr. Sterling?" I cleared my throat and laughed it off. "Not really. We were just casual friends back in the day." "Right, Mr. Sterling?" A flash of shock crossed Jason's face before he gave a slight nod. "Yes, casual friends." His voice was soft, laced with a faint sadness. I breathed a sigh of relief, patting myself on the back for handling that so well. Jason used to hate it when I was loud and showy about our relationship in public. I'd learned my lesson, and I was giving that part of my life a respectable end. When my partner heard we had a history, his face lit up. "Well, what a coincidence that we're working together on this." The Sterling family's business was booming. If we could secure an investment from them, this project would be much more than a small-time operation. My partner was thrilled, of course, and launched into a detailed presentation of our proposal. But Jason seemed distracted the whole time. Maybe it was my imagination, but I kept feeling his eyes on me. When it was time for a toast, I graciously raised my glass. To a successful partnership. Jason, however, stood up and instinctively reached for my glass. "Aren't you allergic to alcohol?" My hand paused in mid-air. I smiled. "Mr. Sterling, we don't know each other that well. You probably didn't know my allergy cleared up a long time ago." I took the glass back from his hand and downed it in one gulp. After that, I moved through the room with ease, clinking glass after glass. Jason watched me smile, but his own heart felt heavy. As the dinner wound down, I went out front to wait for my car. Jason followed me, studying me carefully. "Are you really okay after drinking all that?" I instinctively took a step back. "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sterling, but I'm perfectly fine. It's been 6 years, after all. People change." Jason's eyes were red-rimmed as he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "So you're not going to want me back, are you?" His words hung in the air, and for a moment, it felt like neither of us was breathing. I nervously stubbed out my cigarette and forced a laugh. "You're joking, Mr. Sterling. What kind of relationship could we possibly have? We were just—" Before I could finish, a car horn blared behind me. A black Bentley had pulled up to the curb. "Babe, are you getting in?" A man's playful voice called from inside. I smirked. "I've got things to do at home. I'm heading out." Jason reached out, but his fingers only managed to brush the corner of my jacket. He couldn't hold on to me anymore. I used to be the son of a new money millionaire, and I had a spoiled, headstrong little sister. I met Jason the year I had to go to a parent-teacher conference for her. She told me there was this incredibly handsome guy at her school, the campus heartthrob, named Jason Sterling. Not only was he a rich kid, but his grades were also insane. All I heard was typical straight-A student. As a punk with bleached hair who couldn't care less about school, I thought he sounded boring. But I turned around, and the next second, I was face to face with him. He was wearing the standard blue and white school uniform, but nothing could hide the sophisticated air about him. Jason's voice was gentle.
Excusami.
"Can I get by?" I just stared, dumbly stepping aside to let him pass. As he walked by, I could smell the clean, fresh scent on him. Watching him walk away, I had to admit my sister was right for the first time. Jason Sterling was seriously good-looking. After that, I snuck into the school by hopping the fence a few times, just to catch another glimpse of him. He was a star completely out of my league. I never thought our paths would cross again. Until after he graduated, when disaster struck his family. Jason's father, deep in debt, jumped from a building. The Sterling family had to sell everything they owned just to barely cover what they owed. Overnight, Jason went from a prince to a pauper. I couldn't stand seeing him so broken, so I went looking for him. And I happened to stumble upon a few guys talking trash about him. Now that his family's bankrupt, what's Jason Sterling pretending to be a rich kid for? He's a total poser. Acts so delicate all the time. I never thought he was that hot anyway. It's just because all those girls worship him. If you ask me, he's not even as handsome as I am. The other day, I tripped him on purpose. He totally ate dirt. Isn't he working part-time now? We should go to his job and mess with him a bit. A round of nasty laughter echoed from the corner. I leaned over the wall, glaring at them. Turns out, good grades don't filter out scumbags. Feeling protective of Jason, I walked right up to them. They looked at me, confused. Who are you? I gave them a humorless smile. Your worst nightmare. Someone threw a punch and I didn't hold back. I was never good at school, so I started working with my dad early on, learning how to handle myself on the streets. By the time I stopped to wipe the blood from my lip, the guys were a whimpering mess on the ground. You psycho, what did we ever do to you? You just wait. The cops will deal with you. I cracked my neck, annoyed, not noticing one of them was about to sneak up on me. Then a voice from behind me froze me in my tracks. What are you all doing? Jason was standing a short distance away, his expression unreadable. The cops showed up. Those guys tried to pin everything on me. But there were no cameras, so it was their word against mine. They were furious, muttering about getting revenge. I shot them a triumphant eye roll. In the end, they were assigned detention, and I got ready to hop the fence and leave. Until Jason called out to me. You? My back went rigid. I turned around, nervously rubbing my hands together. My name's Leo Lee. You can call me Leo. Jason gave a faint smile. Okay, Leo Lee. You don't have to climb the fence. I'll walk you out the main gate. His voice, carried on the evening breeze, was incredibly gentle. As we reached the gate, he suddenly added, Leo, don't get into any more fights. I nodded dazedly. Okay. And that was it. We parted ways. If time could have stopped in that moment, maybe things between Jason and me wouldn't have ended up so painfully. After the fight, I went south with my dad to work on a business deal. By the time I returned to Southport, everything had changed. Jason's mother had suddenly fallen gravely ill, and he was trying to borrow money everywhere to pay for her medical bills. But with all the family assets gone, he had nothing. All he could do was work multiple part-time jobs, even taking dangerous under-the-table work at night. Then, the same group of guys who'd been mocking him ran into him at the hospital. They grabbed him by the collar, ordering him around. You still think you're some rich young master? Who do you think you're scowling at? If my parents hadn't hired you for that part-time job, you couldn't even afford to keep your mom in this hospital. I never could stand that goody two-shoes act of yours. How about this? Get on your knees and lick my shoes clean. If you do, I'll tell my dad to keep you on. How about it? Jason clenched his fists, a vein throbbing on his forehead. He took a deep, shaky breath, as if he was actually about to kneel. I rushed over and helped him up, then spun around to yell at the other guy. Who the hell do you think you are? You don't get to touch my guy. When he saw who I was, he flinched. You, stay out of this. I cracked my knuckles, and the guy scrambled away in fear. When I turned back, I saw that Jason's eyes were red. It was an early autumn morning, and he was dressed in thin clothes. The cashmere sweater he wore, once expensive, was now covered in pills. My heart ached for him. This wasn't how Jason was supposed to be. He was meant to be the moon in the sky, not dirt on the ground. But in that moment, he had never been closer to me. So, on an impulse, I said, I'll cover the medical bills. Will you be with me? Jason's eyes widened, and he forgot to let go of my arm. In that instant, the look on his face was anything but joyful. I didn't know it then, but I couldn't understand what that offer meant to a young man who once had everything. All I knew was that it was the only way I could get close to him. It wasn't until much later that I understood. It's called taking advantage of someone's desperation. With the medical bills taken care of, Jason no longer had to scramble for money. But his family's bankruptcy still made life incredibly difficult. Juggling a part-time job and running to the hospital, he lost a lot of weight. I was worried about him, so I went to the hospital every day. I'd force milk into his hands, afraid he wasn't eating enough. I was so insistent that he couldn't refuse. When he got off work at night, I was always waiting for him by the door. Partly because I was afraid those guys would bother him again. And partly because I just wanted to spend more time with him. But every time he saw me, he'd keep his distance. It was only when we reached a deserted street that I could catch up to him. I knew he was trying to avoid being seen with me. After all, if anyone found out that the refined Jason Sterling was hanging out with a punk with bleached hair, he'd be mortified. Once we were on an empty street, I'd command him, "Jason, hold my hand, now." He would resist, but he was no match for my strength. In the end, I'd be the one to grab his hand and stuff it in my pocket where it was warm. After a week of this awkward but harmonious routine, I had to leave again. "Where are you going?" Jason asked, a rare moment of him starting a conversation. I raised an eyebrow and grinned. "Oh, worried about me?" Jason turned his head away. "No, you're imagining things." TCH, I knew it. I waved a hand dismissively. "I'm heading to the coast this time. Should be back in 2 or 3 weeks. The tip of Jason's pen paused. "Okay, I get it," he said quietly. Before I left, I gave him a little good luck charm. "Jason," I said with a roguish grin, "if you miss me, just give this a squeeze." My mom stitched it herself. "It looks just like me." Jason clutched the charm tightly. "Don't worry," he said seriously. "I won't miss you." I shot him a look. What a heartless little brat. After I left, Jason's life returned to its 3-point routine. But the days that had once felt busy and full now seemed oddly empty. There was no one waiting for him after work anymore. No one to hold his hand. Without my constant attention, Jason felt strangely out of sorts. One day, leaving the hospital, he was struck by a sudden wave of loneliness. He subconsciously squeezed the little charm in his pocket. As much as he hated to admit it, in that moment he really was thinking of me. Maybe it wasn't so hot on the coast. Jason sighed and kept walking. When he reached the familiar street, he suddenly stopped. At the edge of the dimly lit road, there was a single bright spot. I was holding a huge bouquet of red roses, waving at him. "Jason." Jason stopped in his tracks, feeling something bubble up in his chest. I shoved the roses into his arms and grinned. "Did you miss me while I was gone?" Jason let go of the charm in his pocket and held the flowers, stubbornly saying, "No, I was used to it. TCH, I knew you were heartless. I made an excuse for myself. But I was busy too. Busy making big bucks, no time to think about you." Jason lowered his gaze. His free hand hung at his side, occasionally brushing against me. "Why are you back so suddenly?" I turned to look at him, feigning mystery. "You really don't know?" He stared straight ahead, playing dumb. "I don't." That did it. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "TCH, my sister told me you were the top scorer on the college entrance exams." "Duh. As your sugar daddy, don't I have to give you a reward? Otherwise, I'd look pretty cheap, right? Like some kind of scumbag." The tips of Jason's ears turned red. "Don't talk like that when we're outside," he mumbled. "Great. Now he was embarrassed?" I clutched my stomach, bent over laughing. Okay, I won't say it again." I gently squeezed his earlobe to soothe him. "I won't say crude things like that in public anymore. Don't be mad, my dear Mr. Sterling." The blush spread from his ears to his cheeks, so hot it made his heart tremble. It was only when I noticed the cuts on his hands from his part-time job that my laughter died down. "You idiot. You didn't even notice your hands were hurt." I grabbed his hand like a spoiled child, trying to guilt-trip him. "See? This is how you take care of yourself without me." Jason's fingers twitched. For once, he agreed. "True." I blew on his hand to warm it before carefully tucking it back into my pocket. TSK. It's gotta be me," I said, secretly pleased. Don't you worry. I won't let you get hurt again. Jason blinked, a warmth spreading through his chest. What do you mean by that? It means I'm not leaving again, I said plainly. I'm staying here to protect you. A tiny, almost imperceptible smile touched Jason's lips. The night grew quieter as we walked further and further. As expected, Jason was the top scorer in the entire city. For a while, his picture was on posters all over Southport. I was thrilled for him and invited a few friends to celebrate. Jason sat next to me, looking a little uncomfortable. One of my buddies, a guy named Alex, poured him a drink. To Mr. Sterling, for conquering the city exams. The tone was normal, but Jason felt something was off. The next second, Alex asked, "So, where did you apply to college?" Jason instinctively looked at me. I beamed with pride.
Harvard or MIT, obviously.
They were calling the house, fighting to get him. Alex forced a smile. Right. Mr. Sterling is definitely going to Boston. When you get there, don't forget about us, your buddies back here. Okay? Jason raised his glass politely. I won't. He took a small sip and put the glass down. The table was loud and lively, but he felt like an outsider. After a little while, he got up to go to the bathroom. The restroom in the cheap diner was tucked away in the back. Alex pointed him in the right direction. When Jason came out after washing up, he found Alex still there. He was leaning against the wall, smoking, and looking at Jason with narrowed eyes. Leo's good to you, isn't he? Jason washed his hands, looking at him through the mirror. Yes. So when you go to Boston, are you going to break up with him? Jason paused, then looked down. If Leo wants that, I'll respect his wishes. Hearing this, Alex felt a surge of annoyance. He sounded like he was taking advantage of being liked, completely unconcerned. He stubbed out his cigarette, a hint of a boast in his voice. I was 10 when I started following Leo. He bought me off the street for $100, and I never had to go hungry or get beaten again. From that day on, I swore I'd stay by his side forever. Later, when Leo made some money, he rescued a few more of us from some bad situations. We all swore we'd protect him for the rest of our lives. What about you? Leo rescued you too, right? Jason thought back to that day and nodded non-committally. Yes. At that, Alex got a look on his face like he'd known it all along. I knew it. Leo's a good guy to everyone. To you, to me, to all of us, he's the same. He saved you because he felt sorry for you. You and us were actually the same. Jason scrubbed his hands harder, looking down to hide his expression. We're not the same. He hated the word pity. Alex's tone shifted. But I know you're not one of us. Alex had been watching Jason closely the whole time. The unconscious frown when he entered the diner, the way he repeatedly wiped the table before sitting, the cheap liquor he never touched again after the first sip. Even so, Jason sat there politely, quietly listening to them talk. But no matter how close Jason got, Alex could still see the gap between them. A swan that has fallen into the mud can eventually fly back to the heavens. But they were different. No matter how hard they flapped, they could only splash around in the pond. Alex continued, "What did you think of the food?" Jason pressed his lips together. He hadn't eaten much. The rice was a bit coarse, and the dishes were greasy and overly spicy. He'd mostly just drank water while watching Leo. Alex just smiled. This little diner is Leo's favorite. It's cheap, filling, and you get a lot for your money. Back when he was just starting out, we came here all the time. The first time Leo and his dad earned $1,000, he said he was going to save it all up for a marriage fund. Then, a couple of years later, he met you and dropped 50 grand on you without a second thought. For the old you, that's probably what you'd spend on a single trip to the mall, right? But Leo had been saving that money since he was a kid. A storm of emotions churned inside Jason. What are you trying to say with all this? He asked, his voice hoarse. Alex turned off the faucet and laid his cards on the table. Your potential is so much higher than ours. I'm afraid Leo will get hurt being with you. So if you ever become a burden to him, can you have the decency to leave on your own? Jason didn't answer. He stayed in the bathroom by himself for a long time. By the time he came out, most people had already left. I was pretty drunk. Alex was helping me up, muttering in my ear, "You idiot, are you trying to drink yourself to death?" I dug a finger in my ear. Why was this guy so loud? My eyes half opened and I saw Jason. I immediately pushed Alex away. "Get off me, I don't want you." Then I pointed at Jason. "Aren't you going to come get me?" Jason came over and supported me, and Alex's face darkened. Before we left, Alex still reminded Jason that my allergy medicine was in the kitchen at my place and to make sure I took it when we got back. Jason carried me on his back, and I rested my head in the crook of his neck. He always had this nice smell. The summer night air was hot and sticky. Even though I was burning up, I didn't want to let go. When we got home, he put me on the sofa and went to the kitchen to get the medicine. The alcohol was hitting me hard. I groggily got up and stumbled to my room. I got down on the floor and pulled a small black box out from under the bed. When Jason came back in, he saw me sitting on the floor with one leg bent, my rough fingertips holding a jade ring. I beckoned to him. "Come here." Jason knelt down and looked at me. I was trembling from the alcohol, but I managed to steadily place the ring in his palm. "The one you sold. I got it back for you." This ring had been a gift from his mother. When she suddenly fell ill, Jason had sold it to a pawn shop for a ridiculously low price. He never thought he would ever get it back. In that moment, his heart was filled with a bittersweet mix of emotions. So there really was someone in the world who would be good to him, no strings attached. He reached out and gently touched my face, saying a very heartfelt thank you. I waved it off with a smile. "It's nothing." Then, I was so tired I just closed my eyes. He leaned quietly against the bed, secretly watching me by the moonlight. Alex was right. People who stayed by Leo Lee's side would always be happy, whether it was him or Alex and the rest of the crew, because he was just a genuinely good person. Jason rested his head in his palm and whispered, so softly it was almost inaudible, "If you're taking pity on me, could you please do it for a little longer?" On the day he was supposed to leave for college, Jason bought a coach class ticket for a slow train for the first time. Squeezed among the crowd in the noisy waiting hall, he felt a little down. Then a pair of black leather shoes appeared in front of him. He looked up and saw me. I had dyed my bleached hair black, which made me look a little more respectable. For a second, Jason almost didn't recognize me. I took off my sunglasses and poked his forehead. "Hey, you're off to college. Why the long face?" Jason was surprised. "What are you doing here?" I nudged his shoulder, signaling for him to make room. "Going to Boston to do business, of course. I hear you can make big money there. Besides, my little boy toy still owes me money. I gotta follow him to collect, right?" I said it loud and carelessly, without a thought for our surroundings. Then I immediately regretted my big mouth. Jason just chuckled, a secret joy blooming in his chest. He held my hand the entire way there. But when I walked with him onto the Harvard campus, I suddenly felt intimidated. The moment we stepped through the gates, I let go of his hand. Jason froze for a second. "What's wrong?" Cleared my throat. "Remember to keep your distance." Jason's hand tightened into a fist. "Oh," he said in a muffled voice. Just like before, I deliberately put space between us. When we ran into his roommates, we exchanged pleasantries, and when they asked who I was, I just grinned and said I was his older brother. Jason glanced at me but didn't say anything. I had a meeting with a business partner that afternoon, so I couldn't stay with him. I had planned to expand my business here before, but I just wasn't strong enough then. Now, with a few more years of experience under my belt, it was worth a shot. If I could capture the market here, I'd be making a lot more than I ever did before. Arriving in Boston for the first time, I was naively optimistic about the future. The person I liked was here, even making money felt more exciting. That night, back at my rented apartment, I got a text from Jason. "Don't worry, I'll pay back every cent I owe you." I couldn't help but smile. He was so serious. After that, I was busy running around for my business and he was busy with his studies. We didn't see each other for over half a month. Then, 3 days later, Jason texted me again. "I have a performance at the freshman welcome party on Wednesday. Do you want to come?" It was rare for him to take the initiative, so of course I couldn't miss it. I happily replied that I would definitely be there. Jason even saved a seat for me. But when the day came, I got stuck at a last-minute business dinner I couldn't get out of. The client was a very influential CEO. I had no choice but to grit my teeth and drink my way through it. By the time I rushed to the school, I was already late. There were only a few people left and Jason was gone. Luckily, the big screen was replaying a recording of the event. I still got to see Jason in a tuxedo tonight. He stood in the spotlight playing the violin. He was refined, elegant, and absolutely dazzling. It was as if he'd never fallen at all. This is a good thing, I thought, but a strange sense of unease settled in my heart. Hiding in the darkened audience, I thought about texting him. Just as I pulled out my phone, I saw Jason emerge from backstage, and there was a girl following him. "Jason, wait up!" She caught up to him and straightened his collar. The gesture was very intimate. Jason, ever the gentleman, just said thank you. Then they started walking forward side by side. Watching his retreating back, I felt a tightness in my chest. It felt like he was drifting further and further away from me. I drank too much at that dinner and it took a toll on me. On top of that, the investment from the client still hadn't come through, and I was getting anxious. All that stress made me sick. A bad cold and fever hit me like a truck. When Jason called, I was so weak I could barely speak. The next time I opened my eyes, he was in my room. He knelt down to wipe my face, his voice full of worry. "Leo, how did you let yourself get like this?" I managed a weak smile. "Just been too busy trying to make money." He keenly sensed my mood and asked, "Are you in some kind of trouble?" Delirious with fever, I felt unusually vulnerable. A little. Jason was quiet for a moment, then tucked the blanket around me. He seemed to whisper something in my ear, but I was half asleep and couldn't make it out. I just felt something ticklish on my face, like a feather brushing against me. First on my eyes, then on my cheek, and the last touch on my lips. When I was fully awake again, Jason was gone. I rubbed my head and had my assistant reschedule my work. The investment from Mr. Zhou at that last dinner was crucial. I had been negotiating with him for days. After that, Jason started showing up at my place often. He was like my secret housekeeper, always making sure I wasn't starving myself. Seeing him after a long day of work always put me in a great mood. Later, Jason started depositing money into my account every month. It was to pay back the $50,000. I joked with him, in such a hurry to pay me back. "Does that mean you don't want to be my boy toy anymore?" Jason tied on an apron and said seriously, "That's right. I don't want to be your lover." My smile froze, and a sour feeling crept into my heart. This kid. Why did he always have to push back against me? A week later, I went to see Mr. Zhou again. This time, he wasn't as difficult as before. In fact, he readily agreed to invest. But just before we signed the contract, he mentioned he had a batch of unsold goods in his warehouse that he wanted me to help get rid of. The live streaming industry was just starting out back then, and it was pretty unregulated. For the sake of the Boston project, I gritted my teeth and agreed. My workload exploded. I was dealing with business matters on one hand and learning to act like a fool on a live stream on the other. Luckily, the traffic was pretty good at the time, and Mr. Zhou's merchandise sold out quickly. But I never expected Jason to find out about it. One day, Jason came back from the library, and his roommate pulled him over to watch my live stream. In the stream, I was making a complete fool of myself to sell the products. He could hear his roommate's mocking laughter. "Dude, this guy is such an idiot. He's actually eating wasabi straight from the tube, and he's making up some sob story about being terminally ill with a wife and kids to support. His act is so lame and he's selling garbage. Who would even buy this stuff? Wait a second, this guy looks familiar. Isn't that the guy who brought Jason to school and said he was his brother?" Suddenly, everyone turned to look at Jason. Jason was still holding his book. He couldn't hear their chatter anymore. All he could see was me on the screen, looking utterly pathetic. That night, Jason called me. His tone was sharp. "Leo, why are you doing that kind of work?" I was exhausted and my temper flared. "What kind of work? You look down on it, you think it's beneath you, is that it?" "That's not what I mean," Jason argued. "Even if you need to make money, you can't just throw your health away. Besides, how much can you even make doing that?" The fatigue from the past few days made me lose my cool. Jason, who do you think you are? What right do you have to judge me? Yeah, you think it's not much. After all, to the old you, that kind of money wouldn't even be pocket change, right? But I need it. I need to get a foothold here. I need to support myself. Jason's face paled. I don't want you to hurt yourself, he said weakly. A pang of guilt hit me, and my anger deflated. You don't have to worry about me. After all, we're not in any kind of relationship. This time, Jason was silent for even longer. I gripped my phone, trying to calm down. I'm sorry. I'm just not in a good mood. I'm hanging up. Mr. Zhou didn't keep his promise. The next day, I stormed into his building but was stopped at the entrance. The winters in Boston are much colder than in Southport. My legs were nearly frozen stiff by the time he finally let me in. His eyes, behind thick glasses, were full of calculation. I confronted him angrily. Why did you break our contract? Mr. Zhou sat comfortably in his chair and sneered. You don't know? Then he threw a stack of photos at me. It was Jason with the girl who had played the violin with him. The photos were all taken on campus. The girl was often following Jason around. Sometimes they were in class, sometimes playing music, sometimes hosting an event together. They looked young and beautiful in every picture. Mr. Zhou said, You can see my daughter likes this kid, right? I used to work with the Sterling family. I know Jason is a promising young man. Once he becomes my son-in-law, his future will be limitless. I also know that you have an improper relationship with him. His private investigator had photographed Jason at my place. He continued, I've always despised your kind, disgusting homosexuals. If my daughter didn't like Jason, I never would have even met with you. So if you know what's good for you, you'll get out of here as soon as possible. His tone was dripping with the arrogance of someone in power. My hands trembled. Is this why you're targeting me? He laughed, his fat jiggling. So naive. I guess it's understandable. You're only in your early 20s, full of reckless courage. You've stepped on our turf. Even if it wasn't me, someone would have taken you down sooner or later. It was only a matter of time. It was only then that I understood the unwritten rules of this place. These people were all in it together, secretly monopolizing the market. As I was leaving, he even offered me some smug advice. Lighten up, kid. I walked out of the building, completely drained. Standing beneath the towering skyscrapers, I felt incredibly small for the first time, like an ant that anyone could crush. Alex had come to Boston. He pulled up in front of me, looking worried. Boss, you okay? I shook my head, my usual habit of saying I was fine. He said, Boss, if you're tired, I'll take you home. I smiled and playfully punched his shoulder, and I really did go back. A few days later, Jason texted, saying he wanted to come over. I refused. I told him Alex was here, so he didn't need to worry. Jason didn't reply, but the monthly payments still arrived on time. After talking it over with Alex, we decided to give up on the project here. That meant almost all of our investment was lost. On my worst day, Alex said, Leo, let's go home. Okay? I went to the university and saw Jason at a rehearsal. At the entrance, I saw that girl. She was even prettier in person. Standing together, they looked like a princess and a prince. That was Jason. Even after falling from grace, he still shone like a brilliant pearl. I should have known I wouldn't be the only one who wanted him. The rehearsal room was a mix of music and voices, but I could still hear Jason's voice clearly. He said to them, Who could like a man? It's disgusting. Mr. Zhou's words flashed in my mind. I've always despised your kind, disgusting homosexuals. It felt like a sudden ringing in my ears, and the world went silent. I could feel 1,000 needles stabbing at my heart. I looked up at the sky. Even if I'd been a jerk in the past, did I really deserve this? I leaned against a banyan tree for a long time, but the sharp pain in my chest wouldn't go away. I knew I couldn't face Jason. All I could do was call him. He picked up right away. Leo. He said my name so easily. I thought of a million things to say, but in the end, all that came out was, Jason, let's just call it quits. His voice was raspy. Why? I told him the truth.
I'm tired.
Chasing after you is just too exhausting. Jason asked again, so, I've become a burden to you, is that it? Yes, I said, my voice weary. After a very, very long silence, he finally spoke. Okay, that's how relationships are. When they start in a haze, they end in confusion. I never told him how I truly felt, so I never got a real answer from him. Breaking up was the best choice. It's been almost 6 years since we parted ways. Coming back to Boston, I'm not as reckless as I was before. I've been to a lot of places over the years, made money and lost it. Looking back now, what happened back then seems like nothing. I just never expected to run into an old flame. Feels a little strange. Sitting in the car, Alex was as blunt as ever. Did that Jason guy give you a hard time? He gripped the steering wheel, indignant. If he dares to mess with you, I'll get some guys to rough him up. I immediately smacked him on the head. Don't you dare cause any trouble. He didn't give me a hard time. We were just talking business. A moment later, I smacked him again. And what was that babe thing earlier? What, am I a kid in your eyes now? Alex rubbed his swollen forehead, looking wronged. I see our guys Jason and Chris calling each other that, so I wanted to try it with you. I turned to look at this ridiculous kid and couldn't help but laugh. They're a couple. Are you and I a couple? Why would you call me that? Don't do it again. If people hear you, what will happen to my reputation? Alex turned his head and mumbled. Just because we're not now doesn't mean we won't be later. My hearing's not what it used to be. What did you say? Alex immediately shouted. I said the boss is awesome. He parked downstairs and I went up first. As I was about to unlock my door, someone grabbed my hand. Hey, a thief! I yelped. A voice next to me said, It's me. The motion sensor light flickered on. Jason was standing there, his face etched with sorrow. I was at a loss for words. He was about to speak again when Alex arrived. He violently yanked Jason's hand away. What do you think you're doing? What is this? Jason just looked at me. Leo, can we please talk? Alex frantically wiped my wrist with his sleeve. How dare you touch my boss? Talk about what? Who do you think you are? The stinging on my wrist brought me back to my senses. I thought for a moment and agreed. Okay. Alex looked like he was about to cry. Boss, he's up to no good. He had come all this way, and he wouldn't leave until he got the answers he wanted. Jason stood under the streetlight, watching me quietly. Facing him now, I no longer felt that old awkwardness. He spoke first. How have you been all these years? Such a typical adult pleasantry. I gave a carefree laugh. Not bad. Making more money than before, my sister got married, and I've even met 1 or 2 interesting people. It's been pretty good. What about you? Did you marry the girl you loved? Jason lowered his eyes and said frankly, There's no girl I love. There's only one person I've been waiting for, who never came back. My fingertips trembled. I tried to laugh it off. Wow, that person sounds like a real jerk, keeping Mr. Sterling waiting for so long. But Jason was serious. He's not a jerk. He's a very good person. He saved me when I was at my lowest. But my pride was too strong back then, and I never even hugged him properly. He also has a lot of little puppies around him, and they all love him very much. Back then, I had nothing. No money, no love. So, of course, he left me. A cool breeze rustled his hair. Standing under the warm yellow streetlight, he looked like a lonely god. The once proud Jason Sterling had voluntarily taken off his own crown. I leaned against the car, trying to act calm. A puppy getting abandoned is pretty sad. But then again, he never really liked his master anyway. Shouldn't he be happy to be free? A mist formed in Jason's eyes. He's not happy. In the 6 years since he lost him, he has never been happy. Jason still remembered the winter they broke up. He was in the rehearsal room, tuning his violin, when he suddenly heard a commotion. Someone threw a phone at him, laughing. Jason, read this out loud. What's this? Jason took it and saw the headline. Who could like a man? So disgusting. Revealed. University heartthrob's close relationship with older sponsor. Suspected kept man rumors swirl. Before he could finish reading, he was drowned in a sea of taunts. Jason, is this about you? Are you really one of those disgusting homosexuals? No way, you have such good grades. At that moment, his performance partner, Lily, whispered to him, Jason, I know you're not like that, right? My dad said that man forced you. You don't really have feelings for him. Just say I'm your girlfriend, and I'll help you get out of this. Okay? A flood of memories with me flashed through Jason's mind. In a crisis, people instinctively make choices that follow their heart. He stared at them and said, word by word, it wasn't coercion. I just like him. The laughter didn't stop, but his own heart's voice grew clearer. He lifted the violin in his hand and smashed it against them, then turned and fled the room. In that moment, he felt an incredible sense of release. It wasn't the first time he had faced such malice. He had seen countless ugly faces ever since he lost everything. He thought he would never be able to stand up again, until someone pulled him up and told him there was still hope. So he got up and kept moving forward. Whether that person's kindness was charity or pity, he swore he would never let go of his hand. Until the day he said it himself that he was tired. He said he didn't want him anymore. Jason's eyes were red as he asked, if I told him I was sorry right now, do you think he would still want him? His voice was carried away by the wind, leaving no echo. The cigarette in my fingers was about to burn out, but I still couldn't find the words. I didn't respond, but Jason waited stubbornly, until Alex's voice called down from upstairs. I hastily threw out a sentence. It's probably best to just be casual friends from now on. As I turned to leave, Jason was still standing there. That night, for the first time in a long time, I couldn't sleep. I remembered the first time I saw Jason. He was a beautiful little rich boy. When my family was at our poorest, my mom was bedridden, and my dad worked 3 jobs a day, but it still wasn't enough for her medical bills. I was desperate to make money, so I dragged my sister onto the street to pretend to be beggars. We wailed and cried, temporarily sacrificing our dad's good name. But our acting was terrible and we barely made a few bucks all day. On the last day, just as I was about to give up, I met Jason. He was holding his mom's hand. He walked up to us and obediently placed his watch and a toy in my tattered bowl. You guys will be okay, he said in his little kid voice. My sister and I were stunned. Later, I pawned them and got almost $30,000. Because of that money, my mom lived for a few more years. That's when I realized how great it was to have money. Life without it was just too hard. The way fate works is a strange thing. I never dreamed that I would meet Jason again when I was 20. Maybe because I'd been a street punk for so long, I had become greedier. I knew we were worlds apart, but I still foolishly wanted to have him. But having had him, even for a short time, I don't have any regrets. The next day, I went to the office early. Jason had already worked out most of the details with my partner. He looked at me and said, if there are no problems, you can just sign here. I picked up the contract and saw a lot of zeros. More money than I had ever dared to dream of. I hesitated. Are you sure you don't want to look this over again? I've already confirmed everything, Jason said. His tone was serious. He wasn't joking. A smile spread across my face. Having money is the best. I sat down happily, ready to sign. Suddenly, my head swam. Then, a few drops of blood splattered on the paper. I touched my mouth. Was that blood I coughed up? In a daze, a sharp pain shot through my stomach. Seriously, universe? Why does disaster always strike right when I'm about to get rich? With a thud, I collapsed to the floor. Before I passed out, the last thing I saw was Jason's terrified face rushing toward me. When I next heard the beeping of a machine, 3 days had passed. Jason and Alex were both standing by my bed, their eyes red and puffy. I asked weakly what happened. The doctor said that because of my long-term irregular lifestyle and neglect of my health, I had developed a severe stomach condition and needed to be hospitalized for treatment. I thought back over the years, how I had always been so focused on making money that I ignored my body. I never thought it would end up being this serious. Faced with my own mortality, I finally decided to behave. So I should just rest and get better? Alex was crying, his eyes swollen. Boss, don't you die. Jason pulled him aside and said firmly, he won't die. I'm here. He sat down next to me, his expression grim. Leo Lee. My heart skipped a beat. Why did he suddenly sound so fierce? You're always like this. You never care about your own body. He was genuinely angry. The old him was always gentle and polite. I had never seen him so serious. Are you trying to worry me to death? He was so mad his eyes were rimmed with red, which made him look both pitiful and cute. I instinctively tried to soothe him. You don't be angry, okay? I'll take good care of myself from now on. Jason wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. Good. Then I'll be the one to take care of you from now on. Alex? I only then found out that I was in Jason's private hospital. It had the best medical resources in the entire city. Every day, he would come to the hospital to supervise me. He made me follow the doctor's orders, take my medicine on time, exercise, and sleep. After nearly 30 years of non-stop work, this was the first real break I'd ever had. First, it was nice, but after a while, I got bored. So, Jason had a game console installed in my room. I played it happily every day, sometimes even forgetting to take my medicine. At those times, Jason would appear like a ghost, asking in a spooky voice, "Leo Lee, have you taken your medicine today?" I'd be busy fighting a boss monster and would brush him off. Yeah, I took it. But Jason wouldn't leave. He would just stand there and watch me, until I had cleared level after level and completely forgotten. He would then find the medicine bowl I had hidden, chug it down himself, and then pin me down without any argument and feed it to me himself. I was completely baffled. "Jason," I said slowly, "I think you've gone bad." Jason licked his lips. "I learned from you. If you don't behave, I'll kiss you until you do." After that, I was on my best behavior. Not long after, the doctor said I could go home to recuperate. Jason took me back to his villa. He said I wasn't disciplined enough and that he had to watch over me himself. Alex, seeing the value of a private doctor, gritted his teeth and agreed. And just like that, I was living with Jason again. At night, he would slip into my room and sleep next to me as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I awkwardly reminded him, "Shouldn't you go back to your own room?" Jason closed his eyes and grabbed my hand. "My room is right here. Didn't you used to like this the most?" My face flushed and I eventually gave in. After I fell asleep, however, Jason opened his eyes. This time, he held Leo's hand tightly, determined never to let go again. He had been too immature in the past, always causing him pain. It wasn't until he lost him that he understood just how important he was. So important that his own words and actions had long since taken on traces of him. The person he had become, changed by him, was what had kept him company for the past 6 years. He knew that the gentleness and humility he had been taught since childhood were not enough to survive in this dog-eat-dog world. They had both been too small back then, so small that anyone could bully them. So he learned to be like him, climbing his way up, step by step. He became tougher than him, worked harder than him. Over the years, he had endured a lot of hardship and shed a lot of sweat. He, who had grown up in wealth, finally understood how hard it was to earn money. The moment he reached the top, he was no longer the Jason of the past. Mr. Zhou, the man who had once threatened him, was now kneeling on the ground, trembling and begging for mercy. He just crouched down and said lightly, "Old man, you need to learn to let things go." Then, he had him thrown out into the middle of nowhere in Africa. After that, he just waited for the person who was always hiding from him. And now, that person was sleeping peacefully in his arms. He hadn't rested in a long time. He swore that he would never let him suffer even the slightest bit again. Jason kissed me tenderly. The kiss woke me up. I opened my eyes and saw that it was snowing outside. His warm breath tickled my ear. "It's snowing. Can we get back together?" I was still half asleep and mumbled, Then, a moment later, it hit me. "Huh?" I heard a low chuckle from behind me, and he leaned in to kiss me again. Between soft kisses, he slipped the jade ring onto my ring finger. "You said yes. No take-backs."